Alrighty, so I think that's basically everyone's logged in for today. So if you remember from yesterday, my name's Nathan, I'm from Healthy Connections. I'll be running today's session for us. Awesome, thank you. So the focus around today's session is a bit more around balance and breathwork. It will be a bit educational at the start here, and I'll talk to you around some concepts of balance, and then we're going to dive into challenging our balance, testing our balance, and going through some exercises that will help improve it. And the big carryover is that if you can have better balance and more efficient movement and stability, that will cross over to activities such as walking, stepping, if you get into activities of enjoyment like outdoors activities or hiking. All of these components all have a good play and will provide good foundation to make sure you can move with more stability and efficiency. Okay? So first off, we're going to talk a little bit about the breath. You can just do it in a seating position. So the big concept I want to stress in today's session is just talking about being a bit more aware of our breathing, particularly when we're exercising, and ideally wanting to breathe in through our nose. So a big factor, I guess, in today's society is that we have a lot of exposure to different stresses, and due to that, we can find ourselves a lot of the time mouth breathing, but also shallow breathing. And when we're breathing in through our mouth, it's a bit different to the nose because our nose is designed for breath and to help humidify, filtrate the air, and essentially allow for greater oxygen utilization. And doing those more slower and controlled breaths can help stimulate a bit more of that rest and digest system of the body. Whereas if we're doing shallow and fast breaths, more kind of like hyperventilating, that can stimulate a bit more of that fight or flight response. And that's generally when we're in a bit more in stress, which is a normal system and a healthy system, provided we don't stay in that state for extended periods of time. So to start off this session, we're first going to just have a crack at doing a little bit of box breathing to see how we feel when we're breathing, particularly in through our nose to start with, but also trying to control our breath consciously. And then I'll take you through another exercise that can help invigorate the body a little bit, get us prepared to do some movement. Okay? So to start off with, I'd like you to just find a comfortable position on a chair, sitting upright. Just go aim to open up our shoulders a little bit. And with box breathing, you can think about there's 4 periods of the breath, or 4 sections. So we have our inhale, a hold, an exhale, and a little bit of a hold again. So to start off with, we're going to aim to do 2 to 3 seconds. And progressively, you at home can try to increase the length of each section. So 2 to 3 seconds inhale, 2 to 3 second hold, 2 to 3 second exhale, and 2 to 3 second hold. That's why it's called box breathing. And you can build up this into 4, 5, 6 seconds over time. All right, so we're just going to take the first couple of minutes now, focusing in on doing some of this breathing. And I'd like everyone to start that now, thinking about breathing in through the nose, holding out through the mouth. Thank you. Everyone who's sending through some comments about the bands and weights. Alrighty, so assuming that nice posture, we can do this all together. So taking a nice 2 to 3 second inhale. Holding. Exhale. Holding. Repeat. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Holding. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Doing really well. Let's keep that going. inhaling, holding, exhale, hold. So 3 more. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. 2 to go. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And the last one. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Good. So if that's the first time you practice that at home as well, you might just get that nice feeling of a bit of relaxation, a bit more of centering. It's a great practice you can do just every day, but especially too if you've had a bit of stress or you've got 100 things going at once. It's a nice way just to calm down the system and regain a little bit of focus. Okay. Our next breathing technique we're going to do is one to just help excite the body a little bit. So we're taking bigger breaths and we're going to wake up our body. You can do this sitting or standing. Now, some concepts with breath as well, on a general basis, when you're breathing, ideally you want to try to get roughly 2/3 of your breath down into the abdominal area, roughly 1/3 into the chest. So you may find that you get cued a lot. We want to breathe into our belly, trying to get that diaphragm to do a little bit more of the work as opposed to these accessory muscles around the chest and neck. So as you breathe, I like to splay my fingers out and just sit them, my thumb on my rib cage and my pinky towards my pelvis. And that's kind of the area where, as we breathe in, we're trying to feel our ribs expand outwards, our tummy expand forward slightly, and also breathe a little bit into our back. So we're aiming to breathe 360 degrees. And roughly, again, 2/3 of the breath going into this region, 1/3 into our chest. All right, so give it a little bit of awareness. Don't overthink it the best you can. So still try to relax. And we're just going to take a few deep breaths now, focusing on where we're directing that breath. So we'll go for 5 breaths, taking a nice breath into your nose, into this abdominal region, a little bit into the chest, and then breathing out either through your nose or your mouth. Continue with that, and I'll just give you some tips as we're breathing now. So you might find this is a bit hard to focus in on the tummy. A nice practice you can try at home is to just lay down. And you can rest an object on your stomach. And as you're breathing in and out, we're focusing on that object rising and falling, trying to get a bit more of our breath directing down into our abdominal area. Cool. So one last little topic, or one little key with breathing. Often you'll find that the body will like to breathe in as we're sort of extending or opening up our abdominal cavity, and breathe out as we're doing any form of flexing movements. So if you're ever at the gym or doing a workout where you're doing movements like crunching, we want to control our breath in that manner, whereby as we're lowering down for the crunch, we're filling our lungs and inhaling. And as we're coming up and reducing that space in our abdominal cavity, we would like to be exhaling air out. So one little practice we're going to do now is go through some breathing with some spinal movement. And again, you can do this one either sitting or standing. So we're going to go for about 8 reps. I'll do 4 sitting and I'll do 4 standing. And if you want to follow along with the standing ones, by all means join in. But if you want to stay sitting, that's completely fine as well. So how are we going to do it? As we breathe in, we're going to think about extending our body. You can, even to the point, lift your arms up, provided it feels comfortable. As we breathe out, we're going to think about flexing our body and becoming more small and flexing down as we exhale. Okay, so we're going to think about those 2 components. Breathing in, making our body large, filling our stomach and our chest with oxygen. Breathing out, becoming a bit more small. All right, so getting ready. And off we go. We're going to take a nice big breath in and big breath out. Big breath in and out. 2 more. And out. 1 more. And out. To do the standing version, pretty much the exact same thing, provided you feel comfortable and have the stability for it. You can copy what I'm doing now. So we're going to do the same movement, take a nice breath in, and then sort of squat down, become small. Big breath in, and out. 2 more. And out. And last one. And out. Nice work, everyone. All right, so that's just a nice little practice. One, to help calm down the body and recenter it. The second one here, to vitalize the body a little bit, get it energized, and you can prepare it for your day or for exercise. Awesome. So now we're going to move into the balance section of today's session. And there's going to be a little bit of education here at the start before we really dive into the exercises. I'm just going to put my camera down a little bit so you can see my feet. It may cut me off a tad from the start, but when we're doing our balance exercises today, I will be directing the camera back and down just to show you some different positions for our feet. I want you to make sure you have your chair nearby for support so that if it's getting a bit challenging, you have that there for that safety aspect, okay? So to go into some of the components of our balance, with balance, we have 2 big concepts that I'd like to explain today, and then 3 main systems that we're going to touch on. So the first concept is talking about our basic support and our center of gravity. So your basic support refers to your feet. So with your feet, if everyone's just standing up right now, I'd like you to look down at your feet. And if you are to draw an imaginary square around the outside of your feet, that is your basic support. Now your center of gravity for humans sits somewhere roughly between your belly button and your sternum. Now, provided that your center of gravity stays in that imaginary square or your basic support, you will technically be balanced. So if I stand side on right now, if I lean forwards so that now my center of gravity is right on my tiptoes, that's about my limit. If I go any further forwards, I'm either going to fall or have to change my basic support. So now that I've taken that step, my center of gravity is back in the middle and I'm stable. For today's activity, we're going to be changing our feet to challenge our basic support, and that will essentially make it harder to balance. And in doing so, I'm going to progressively increase the intensity, and you can find out at what stage do you find it's quite difficult to maintain your balance. And you can make a note of that today if you like. We will retest a lot of these further down the track. Okay? The other components of balance is 3 main systems. So one is your proprioceptive system, which refers to especially the nerve endings in the bottom of your feet. So we have thousands of little nerves underneath our feet, and they help to communicate with the ground to your brain what they're feeling, and the surface is underneath our feet. So that if we're stepping on an unstable surface, our feet can detect that and allow our body to make corrections to keep the center of mass over our ankles and keep us stable. The other component is the vestibular system. So without getting too technical, basically inside your ear, you have little canals that are full of fluid, And based off how our head is shifting, they can detect that and again, give us a direction of where we are sitting in space. So that's why if I was to spin you around and make you stop, it feels like everything is still spinning because the fluid is still spinning around in our ears before it settles down. The final system is the biggest one that a lot of us depend on and the most predominant, and that's the visual system. So I can see where I am in space with reference to something, and that in turn allows me to make little corrections to keep my balance. Okay, so what we'll be doing is as we challenge our positioning of our basic support, I'll also show you some ways we can challenge those systems, and we can have a little bit of fun with it, but you might be a bit shocked at how hard it can get when we start, I guess, challenging those different systems in different foot positionings. All right, so what I'm going to be doing is getting a timer out, and we're going to try a few different positions and see how you go with each of them. So first off, I'd like everyone to stand with their feet completely together. Grab out my stopwatch. And we're going to see if we can stand feet together. So all the way, feet completely together, and just staying there without making any other adjustments. Bring my chair off to the side. So for this first one, we're just aiming to be able to achieve 30 seconds for each of these tests. So by bringing our feet together, we are reducing our basic support. And we're giving ourselves less room to move around before we're getting right to those little limits or outside edges of stability. Now, if you found that one okay, we're going to adjust to our next one, and that's going to be a slightly heel-toe stand. So just as a close-up, if you think about your feet, we've just had them together. Now we're going to aim to stand with the side of your big toe touching the side of your heel. So if you can see me there, I'm going to bring the side of my right heel touching the side of my left toe. And this is called a semi-tandem stand or a semi-heel toe stand. So I'm starting my timer now. We're going to see if we can maintain this position for 30 seconds. Now, those of you at home who are finding this is quite comfortable, we will be adding some little progressions shortly, and I'll show you ways that we can challenge this by challenging the vestibular and the visual systems. That's been 30 seconds. All right, so now we're going to move into the final one, which is the full heel toe stand. So you may need something for assistance here, especially if you haven't practiced this before. You might be a bit shocked at how hard it can be to stand fully heel toe. And the reason being now is our base of support, if you think about the length of your feet, so my feet, roughly 60 centimeters when they're put together long. So I have 60 centimeters where I can move forwards and backwards, but the width is only roughly 10. So I've only got that small margin whereby if I get my center of gravity a bit too far to the right, I'm going to have to step and change my base of support. Okay, so this one is the hardest out of the three. You're going to aim for that 30 seconds now and seeing if you can just maintain your balance. Throughout it, do your best to still breathe through the nose. Try to calm the body. But our last 5 seconds, hopefully we're hanging on there. And 3, 2, 1. Nice job. All right, the final measure we're going to do is just a single leg stand. So you may find that today you're unable to do a single leg stand without any support, and that's completely fine. Hopefully we find over doing the sessions over the coming weeks that by the end of it, you might be able to do it or with less pressure on a chair. All right, so you can pick a leg. You're going to test both sides. I'm going to start off my left. We're raising the other leg off and then just seeing if we can hold on that one foot. For those of you at home who find this is a really big challenge, one way you can build up to being on one leg is, of course, having a bit of support, but also just taking some very light pressure with the opposite foot and progressively getting this other leg used to taking more of your weight. Over time, you might find that you had to start with about a 70-30 split, and now you can work up to that left leg having 90% to 100% of the weight. So that's been 30 seconds. If you're still going there, we're just going to switch sides. And we'll work on now the opposite leg, and we'll just test to see how each side compares as well. Often you might find you've got one leg that's a bit better than the other. Can be related to different movements or potentially different activities you've done over the years where you had to favor one leg for more weight bearing. But our goal is to get them evened out and be able to stand on one leg, hopefully without support by the end of this program. So there's 30 seconds there as well. Cool, so that just gives you a very basic intro to some standing balance work, and you can see how you compare. As a benchmark, we're wanting to build up to getting at least 10 seconds, ideally 30 seconds for most of these activities if possible. Now, moving back to our first position, our feet together, and I urge you to make sure you have something near you for support. At the beginning, you may want to have your hand on there just to get a feel for the movement before taking it completely away. So now we're going to challenge the vestibular system. And the way we're going to do that, and it will challenge the visual a little bit too, we're going to stand with our feet together and do some head turns. So go slow with these, but essentially we're just going to be turning to our left, back to the middle, back to the right. So that system in our ear is now having to detect this change and respond to it while we're still trying to stay balanced on our feet and not fall side to side. If you're finding you can tolerate side to side, okay, another one is looking up and down. So you can think about looking up towards that ceiling, down towards the ground. And as we're doing it, our body's having to compute this a little bit, make little corrections to keep us balanced, keep that center of gravity over our base of support. Good. Now to challenge our visual system, and that one's a bit more straightforward. Essentially, you're just going to close your eyes, provided you feel safe to do so. When we close our eyes, the inner ear and our proprioceptive systems have to take over. And they're the primary ones now that need to send feedback to our brain to tell us where we are in space and to try to keep that center of gravity over our basic support. What you might find, and what I've found in my experience working as an exercise physiologist, is that many people over time do become very visually dependent. So if you haven't done this before, have something close by. We're going to test it now. And I'm going to keep my eyes open. We're going to see if you at home can go for 10 seconds with your eyes closed. Okay? So we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Off you go. Seeing how you find holding this, eyes closed. 3, 2, 1, and you can open them back up. So you might have found that body starts swaying around. Many of the muscles around the hips and ankles are having to work a bit harder, having to kick in a bit more to keep that posture centered, and keep that center of mass over our base. We're going to try them again now in the semi heel toe stand. So bringing the side of your foot against the side of your heel. And now just testing how we find in this position, turning our head side to side. If you find just standing in this position is enough of a challenge, then I encourage you to practice just trying to hold this position again as I add in these little progressions. Work on getting that foundation nice and strong and sound. Finding the side to side, okay. Now we can add in looking up and looking down. So by getting more competent with this particular activity, it can help translate to, if you're ever walking and talking with someone, you find you're going for a bit of a stroll, you can have a rest there with that activity, and you turn to your friend to speak, but feel yourself drifting off or losing your balance because of that, showing that you might lack a little bit of development in these systems. And doing exercises like that can help get your body better at recalibrating and responding to little perturbations when we move. Going back into that same setup now, back into the semi-heel toe stand, we're going to aim to see if we can hold this with our eyes closed. Okay, so again, only going for that 10 seconds. Have something close by that you can grab onto in case you find you're losing your balance. And we'll start in 3, 2, 1, off we go. Closing our eyes, seeing if we can hold for 10 whole seconds. And there we go. Last job, if you are holding through. Good work. All right, to finish it off for our bit of our test today, we're going to aim to do the full heel toe. Seeing if you can keep that positioning or somewhere close to a full heel toe. And then adding in, can we do any turns of the head, side to side. And if tolerating that, up and down. You made it through the head turns, then you can have a crack at closing your eyes. So in my experience, it's a much smaller percentage of people who get to this level, particularly if you haven't tried it before. All right, so we'll aim to start in 3, 2, 1. And if you're feeling confident, closing your eyes, seeing if we can hold for that 10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1. Opening your eyes back up, giving your body a little bit of a rest now. If you made it through all of that, well done. You have quite good standing balance. I'm guessing for some of you, particularly if you haven't practiced that before, you might have found, especially those last ones, a bit of a challenge. But today it was more so just setting a bit of a benchmark, seeing where we're at, and then further down the track in our last session, we can retest some of these. Okay? If you need to have a little bit of a rest, if you've been standing this whole time, you can have a bit of a seat. We'll just have a 30-second break, and then we'll get into some activities of balance training and some muscles that we want to build up that are particularly important for balance and stability. All right, so you may have found, particularly when you're doing those heel-toe stances, your ankles might have been working side to side. So the ankle muscles, the calf at the back here, and the tibialis anterior, the muscle at the front of the shin. Those two are very important for balance because as I'm going forwards, if I was to fall forward, you'll feel your feet grabbing the ground, and our calf muscles tends to help pull us back to center. And same when I'm going backwards, my thighs and the front of my shin muscles will activate to help pull me back forwards. So to train these two muscles, we're going to do the calf ones either standing or sitting. So if you find standing is a little bit too much, you can stay seated on your chair. And we did some of these yesterday. We're just going to work on some calf raises. So using the chair for support if you feel you need to. And we're just going to raise up and down, going for about 12 reps. So we'll do them now. If possible, we'll do them without the chair. And as you're raising, you're aiming to not let those ankles collapse out. So you can think about like you're squeezing your thighs towards each other a little bit, keeping nice and neutral through the ankle, building on that stability. And you go for 4 more. And last 2. Nice job. Now, for the front of the shins, there's 2 ways we can do that. One in a seated position, and in a standing position, you can also do it. For today, we're going to stick with seated. But if you were to try the standing, you're essentially going to have your bottom against a wall, like you're doing a little bit of a wall sit. For seated, we're going to have our feet out in front. We're going to slightly lean forwards, and then we're just lifting our feet up and controlling back down. So again, you're going to go for about 12 reps or 30 seconds worth of work, lifting up, controlling down. So I want you to really think about trying to get that contraction through the front and top of the shin, not just thinking about lifting our toes up. We want to get the whole foot raising, getting a little bit of that squeeze. And you go for another 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Nice job. So have a little rest there. We will work through those 2 exercises one more time. And then we're going to work up the leg. So looking at the muscles a bit more around the hip and knee. All right, so getting set back up for our calf raises. Using your chair if needed. Trying to keep our shoulders nice and square, hips nice and level. You're going to aim for about 30 seconds. Off we go, lifting up, controlling down. If you find that doing a raise standing, you're unable to get much of a lift through the heels, another option you can try is having your hands against a wall or a bench and creeping your feet away. So you add a bit more of a diagonal with your torso. And all that will do is, instead of having all your weight over your ankles, you can have a little rest there of the calves. Instead of having all the weight over the ankles, if you add a bit more of a diagonal, it takes a bit less weight off the ankle and allows it to be a little bit easier for that calf raise. So for example, if I was to use my chair here, bringing my feet back, raising up, I can do more of a calf raise here with less effort, as opposed to when I have all of my trunk over the ankle joint. Now I have to calf raise against my full body weight. All right, going back to the shins, we're going to do one more set. Creep those feet out as far as you can while keeping the toes down. You can lean forwards a little bit, and then we're just raising those feet all the way up and controlling back down, getting a good squeeze through the top of the shin muscles. So again, these are some easy exercises, particularly if you do the seated calf raises, that we can do whilst watching TV, reading a book, or just relaxing outside. You can just add these into your day, trying to do roughly 30 seconds at a time, and doing 2 to 3 reps or sets of this is a great amount to actually elicit some adaptation and some strength development. And we will rest there. Nice job, everyone. Okay, so our other muscles that we're going to work on for today are the muscles of the hip. So the ankle, the front and back, very important, as well as these muscles around the sides of our hips. And the way we can strengthen them is trying to build on some movements where for a split second, we're going to just be on one leg. So those of you who did the marching yesterday and some of the side stepping, they are great variations. We're going to have a crack at doing some side tapping. So I'd recommend with your chair, having your chair in front of you if you need it for support. And we're going to stand with just soft knees, slightly sitting our bottom back. Okay, and that's going to help emphasize the glutes, put them in a better position to take a bit more of the tension of our body and a bit more of the strain while we do this exercise, as opposed to the knee joints and thighs taking a lot of that tension. From here, we're aiming to just tap our foot out and bring it back in. And as we do that, we're not letting our knee cave inwards. I'm keeping it slightly pushed out, trying to keep some tension around the outside of our hips here. So again, we're just going to use that 30-second duration as our sets and reps, doing little taps out and in, trying to control that movement. For those of you at home that find this is a bit hard, have your chair there and you're just working on taking some weight sideways. Nice job, standing back up. Switching over to our other leg. So again, keeping that knee out, keeping some tension around the outer glute, and just tapping our foot out, controlling back. "30 seconds" is again our marker that we're trying to build up to being able to maintain this exercise with decent technique. And 3, 2, 1. Nice job. Give your legs a little bit of a rest if you need. You can have a seat in between. We're just going to have about 30-second rest here before we move into another exercise, a little bit more around the knee joint. Alrighty, so for our next exercise, we're going to think about some of the components of stepping. And we're wanting to build on one main component, which is a heel strike. So as we're walking, as part of the natural gait that humans are designed to walk with, we want to be striking with our heel as we step, and then being able to push through our toes. So it's these muscles of the calf that help to, once we strike through our heel, propel us forwards. So what we're going to aim to build on is first off just being able to take that heel strike and keep some stability. Okay, again, I'll add little progressions, but I want you to find that level you can do with good quality and feel safe, and just build on that level. So for the first bit, you can have your chair again by your side if need be. You're going to take a step, strike with the heel, and see if we can just shift a bit more weight onto this leg. If possible, allow your back heel to raise up off the ground. We're then going to push our back heel back down and step back to where we started. All right, so we're going to go for about 8 reps with this one before switching feet. So taking that heel strike, taking that step, shifting the weight forwards if you can. Aiming to keep our balance, keeping our hips level, pushing that foot back and stepping back. 6 to go. Stepping, shifting our weight, coming back. If you're finding this is okay, I'd like you to try challenge your stability a little bit here by taking a larger step. Larger steps mean you have to be on one leg for a longer duration of time and requires a bit more effort to get you back to that starting position. Go for our next 2 remaining after this one. Striking with the heel, propelling yourself forwards onto that foot. Coming back, going for our final one. Nice job, everyone. Switching over to our other side. So, keeping our shoulders again quite level, hips quite level. In a step, strike with that heel, shift the weight. Bring it back. Again, if this is feeling comfortable, you can start now increasing the length of your step. Four to go. Go for our last 2. And last one. Nice job, everyone. You can come back to the starting position. Have a little bit of a rest there. So that's about our session finished for today. I'm going to leave you with one last easy technique to work on with our breathing. And this one is aiming to really help to stimulate a bit more of that relaxation through the body and de-stress. So in this final technique, what we're going to aim to do is exhale for a longer duration than what we inhale. So a goal is to aim to inhale for roughly 4 seconds. Hold that breath for somewhere between 2 to 6 seconds. And then exhale for about 6 seconds. All right, so it's okay if you can't get to those exact lengths, but at the very least, you're trying to slow down your exhale. And that will help to stimulate that little bit more rest and digest system of the body, a bit more of that relaxation. All right, so sitting up in a comfortable position, you can have your eyes open or closed and aim to keep up with my cueing. So we're going to take a nice inhale through our nose. Hold it. Very slow exhale through pursed lips. Try to breathe all of that air out. And again, inhale through the nose. Holding that. Exhale, nice and slow. Pushing all the air out. Good. 3 more. Inhaling through the nose. Holding. Breathing out. All the way. Last 2. Inhaling through the nose. Holding. Breathing out First lips all the way out. Final one, inhaling through the nose, holding, and breathing out. Nice job, everyone. So we have finished up there for today. If you have any questions, feel free to pop in the chat now. I can respond to them for you. I saw that 2 of you let me know you had bands. That is great. So the TheraBands will be a very useful tool. So some have weights, not bands. Okay, awesome. If possible, if you can get your hands onto a TheraBand, I believe BA Multi have some on their site. Thank you, Brian. They will be quite useful for Thursday's session as it is based around some resistance training, and I'll be giving you some cool exercises you can do at home, especially I hear some of you are in lockdown or just don't have, if you don't have access to a gym, the TheraBand is a really cheap and versatile piece of equipment that we can do many body weight full body exercises with. So awesome. All right, everyone, thank you very much for attending today, and hopefully I'll see you all back on Thursday. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.